Through initiatives like the Public Lecture Series, the UEW seeks to create a platform for meaningful dialogue, where policymakers and educators can unite to address societal challenges and drive solutions that foster economic and social growth. Such efforts are crucial in promoting educational progress, shaping the future of our nation. Education in the 21st century is transformative. It goes beyond the transfer of knowledge. It empowers individuals, fosters critical thinking, prepares minds to navigate an increasingly complex and interconnected world. These are essential aspects of learning, serve as the pillars on which this institution builds its academic excellence and community involvement legacy. This year's lecture themed Empowering Minds, Shaping Futures for 21st Century Education highlights critical issues that demand our attention as we envision the future of education. Ghana's Sustainable Development Agenda relies on the ability of education to adapt to modern needs, and this lecture serves as an opportunity to explore innovative approaches to higher education. As a leading teacher education institution in Ghana, the University of Education UNIBA takes pride in championing intellectual engagement and collaboration. The Public Lecture Series is designed to convene esteemed scholars, policymakers, and community members from a variety of backgrounds to share their insights, engage in meaningful dialogue, and inspire actionable initiatives. Together, we can embrace diverse perspectives to drive progress in education, foster responsible citizenship, and build thriving communities that contribute to Ghana's socioeconomic growth. I invite you all to join this journey of exploration and empowerment. Let us work together to overcome challenges, seize opportunities, and shape the future of education in Ghana. Let's ambitiously and also reaffirm our transformative power of education as a cornerstone of sustainable development and social progress. Thank you all for being part of this important conversation. The University of Education UNIBA look forward to continuing this tradition of intellectual engagement and collaboration for years. Together, we can shape a brighter future for Ghana and beyond. Welcome once again to this year's annual lecture series. Thank you very much.
The Chancellor, our Vice Chancellor, the Acting Registrar, all other management staff present, our representative representing the Minister of Education, Honorable Clement Apak, our main speaker, Professor P.L.O. Lumumba, our speaker, Dr. Samuel Krantim Pipim, Nananom, deans, directors, all deputies, and all other protocols duly observed. Good morning. This morning, I have the distinct honor of introducing the chairman for today's lecture, a man whose name resonates with intellectual depth, cross-cultural leadership, and tireless advocacy for education and heritage across Africa and beyond. He is a Congolese scholar, a sinologist, who brings to this event over 30 years of global experience with UNESCO. Academically, he is well-rounded, holding a master's degree in law, a bachelor's in design and planning, and a civil engineering degree. This blend of disciplines reflect his multidimensional approach to solving global challenges, and particularly in education and sustainable development. Over the course of his career, he has served in UNESCO offices across the globe, from Asia to Africa and Europe. His work in the Intercultural Dialogue Division saw him champion peace through mutual understanding. He helped organize significant commemorations, including the bicentenary of the abolition of the slave trade in UK and the US. In China, Mongolia, Korea, and Japan, he is a driving force in the Silk Road Project, now part of the Belt and Road Initiative. Through these, he built bridges, cultural, educational, and diplomatic between Asia and Africa. From 2014 to 2020, our chairman served as the head of the Africa unit at UNESCO's World Heritage Center, coordinating the implementation of the 1972 World Heritage Convention in 46 African countries. One of his proudest achievements during the period was initiating the African World Heritage Day, now celebrated every May 5th to recognize and preserve Africa's culture and natural treasures. He has served as UNESCO's representative in Mali and is currently the head of UNESCO's office in Accra, Ghana. In this role, he works closely with government, institutions, and civil society to shape educational policy, preserve heritage, and promote science and communication development. Beyond his administrative roles, he is a passionate researcher and author. His current research explores diplomatic relations and development opportunities between Africa and China. He also co-edits publications on heritage preservation and sustainable development. Through it all, he remains a committed advocate of African identity and the transformative power of culture and education. Indeed, his journey mirrors the very essence of today's lecture, empowering minds through cultural exchange, shaping futures through education and heritage. He is a firm believer of African descent, its culture, and its immense potentials. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me this morning in welcoming our esteemed chairman for today's public lecture, Dr. Edmund Mukala.
You know, sometimes when you're listening, you're being introduced, you're really wondering.
Dr. Chairman, your audience, your chairman, thank you so much.
But I have to commend really our MC because I've never been really introduced it so brilliantly to the point that I was really wondering if it was the same person. Good morning. Honorable Deputy Minister of Education, Dr. Clement Park, Professor Stephen Jobson Mitchell, Vice Chancellor of the University of Education, Winneba, Oman Hene Ni Garte IV, Chairman of the Council of the University of Education of Winneba, our most esteemed Professor P.L.O. Lumumba, I would say the voice of Africa resonated loud and powerful all across the globe. Dr. Samuel Corentin Bibin, a US-based Ghanaian author, present here. Standing on all existing protocols, I would like just to really greet you all, distinguished organizers, esteemed guests, educators, parents, the media, and most importantly, our students. Can I hear you, students? The bright and promising young minds present here today. And I cannot really hide the excitement, the privilege really bestowed upon me to come and chair this very important series of events that this university has been really implementing. I will really commend the Vice Chancellor for this visionary approach, but in particular in understanding that Africa is entering a very critical time, and we're building capacity, enhancing the mind, and building really our people for the future that we want is now, and it is through this kind of events. And please, I would like really you to give a big round of applause to the Vice Chancellor and his team. It is therefore with great pride and deep sense of responsibility that I stand before you today as the chairman of this significant public lecture series, focused on the theme that resonates deeply in the future we seek to build: empowering minds, shaping futures for 21st century education, if I may, particularly in Africa. As UNESCO representative to Ghana, I have witnessed firsthand the incredible power of education to transform lives, communities, and nations. Today, we gather not only to discuss the challenges and opportunities facing education today, but to ignite a collective commitment to shaping a better tomorrow. Aimé Césaire, one of the child of Africa, born in the Caribbean, Martinique to be more precise, he said this: "Be aware, my body and my soul. Be aware above all of crossing your arms and assuming the sterile attitude of spectator." If you're in Africa, the Africa challenges and situation is not a spectacle, as some media try to portray and present it. For life in Africa is not a spectacle. An African sea of griefs is not a proscenium. And an African person who wails is not a dancing bear. And I believe that's exactly what motivated the Vice Chancellor and his team in calling this series, so that we will enter into the heart of all debate and nothing will be left behind. And when you have Professor P.L.O. Lumumba in your midst, nothing will be left behind. The 21st century presents an entirely new paradigm in which education plays a pivotal role. We no longer operate in a world where knowledge alone defines success. We live in an era where the rapid pace of change demands adaptability, creativity, and resilience. Education must evolve to equip individuals not just with facts, but with the critical skill and attitude necessary to navigate this dynamic world. It is our duty, therefore, to empower young minds to think boldly, challenge assumptions, and lead with purpose. At UNESCO, we understand that education is the most powerful tool for achieving sustainable development, peace, and prosperity. But this power can only be realized if education systems are inclusive, equitable, forward-thinking. It must offer opportunity to every child, regardless of background, to become not just consumers of information, but creators, just like their ancestors, innovators, just like the ancestors, and leaders of tomorrow. And the reason I say ancestors, because the story and the information that you know of what Africa have contributed to the civilization of the world has been kept away from you. And that's even one of the reasons that UNESCO, with the African expert, have rewritten the general history of Africa, so that you and I will come and be embraced of all the contribution that Africans have brought to the civilization of the world, and no one of them is left all civilization have really received and have been nurtured by African science, knowledge, and you name it. So this power can only be realized if education systems are inclusive and equitable. So the conversation we will be engaged in over the course of this event will be instrumental. Thank you, I need it. And with your permission, feel the excitement, almost dry your throat. Thank you for your indulgence. So the conversation we will engage in over the course of this event will be instrumental in shaping the education strategy for the future. We are here to rethink the conventional, to challenge the status quo, and to drive forward to the change that will lead to an education system capable of empowering every learner wherever they may be. And I want to express my sincere gratitude to all the organizers, speakers, participants who have made the journey today, and your engagement and commitment to advancing the cause of education in Ghana and in Africa as a whole is what will drive the change we seek. Let this be a catalyst of action, collaboration, and innovation in education. Let us work together to ensure that the education we offer today is truly shaping the future we want to see in the 21st century and beyond. And this brings me to one of the wordings of one of the dear child also of the continent, Sheikh Anta Diop, because what we are looking forward in all this exercise is that the African woman and man you will feel the urge to respond to the griefs and wail of our people, animated by the historical consciousness, being a true creator, a bearer of a new civilization, and perfectly aware of what the whole earth owes to the ancestral genius of his people, African, in all science and culture. And to close, please allow me to read the first Nobel Prize winner, a non-European Nobel Prize winner, said regarding education. Where the mind is without fear, and where the head held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into the fragment by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depths of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arm towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habits, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country awake. Rabindranath Tagore from India. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. At the end of the day, we are hoping that this public lecture will be a catalyst of action and collaboration in education. Our next speaker is a very important person who has a PhD in archaeology from the Simon Fraser University in Canada. He is a member of parliament for Busa South. He was the deputy ranking member for the Committee on Education in Parliament and is currently the Deputy Minister of Education here in Ghana. With a round of applause, let's welcome Honorable Clement Abbas Apak.
Good morning. Before I start my formal speech on behalf of the Minister for Education, I want to make a few brief observations. One, the last time I was on this campus, in this very same hall, it was a very charged moment and atmosphere. At the time, I was still vying to be retained as the Member of Parliament for Busa South, with the hope that my party would be given the mandate. Today, I'm back here as the Member of Parliament for Busa South and the Deputy Minister for Education. Observation number 2. When I arrived, the Vice-Chancellor was in a caucus with other dignitaries. And when he had the chance for us to be close to each other, the first thing he said to me was, "This is an academic institution, no politics." And I agree. The third observation is that I have always wanted to be like my senior brother, Professor Lumumba. When I grow up, I want to be like him. And as part of that effort, I sought to find out if I had anything in common with him. Thankfully, I just discovered that much like him, I also like to drink coffee in the morning. The last observation has to do with your sense of punctuality. And I must commend the Vice-Chancellor, the lecturers, the management, and the students of this institution. I have attended many events of this nature. And unfortunately, it has always been the case that I have to arrive and wait for 30 minutes, sometimes 1 hour, before the event commences. In your case, you were right on time. Mr. Chairman, colleague ministers of state, if present, colleague members of parliament, if present, the Vice-Chancellor, the Pro-Vice-Chancellor, the Chancellor of the University, the Acting Registrar, traditional leaders, distinguished professors and lecturers, deans and directors, heads of departments, esteemed guests, students, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today at this distinguished University of Education, Winneba, to participate in this important public lecture series under the thought-provoking theme, quote, "Empowering Minds, Shaping Futures for the 21st Century," unquote. And let me be quick to add that the Honorable Minister for Education, Harun Idrisu, would have been here himself, but he is attending to an equally important national assignment that, in fact, has everything to do with your university and other educational institutions. He is presently, at this very moment, inaugurating the Ghana Education Trust Fund Board, otherwise known as GETFund. And as you know, the role of GETFund in the provision of educational infrastructure and in support of education is one that cannot be denied. So it is for this reason that he has asked me to represent him. Indeed, the theme for today's talk resonates deeply with the mission and vision of the Ministry of Education, and indeed with the national agenda for educational transformation. We are at a critical juncture in our nation's development, where the quality of education we provide today will determine the trajectory of Ghana's future tomorrow. The 21st century presents both immense opportunities and complex challenges. Rapid technological advancements, globalization, and the evolving job markets demand an education system that is dynamic, inclusive, and future-oriented. To truly empower minds and shape the future, we must embrace innovation, nurture critical thinking, and foster creativity in our classrooms. At the Ministry of Education, we are committed to creating an ecosystem that supports lifelong learning, teacher development, and the integration of digital tools and resources. Initiatives such as the Ghana Accountability for Learning Outcomes Project, GALLOP, curriculum reforms, the emphasis on STEM education, and the investments in infrastructure and digital platforms are all steps in the right direction. But policy alone is not enough. We need institutions like yours to lead the charge in reimagining teacher education and research in pedagogy. You are the bedrock of quality education. Your role in training the next generation of educators is not only vital, but transformative. Let us together ensure our teachers are not just transmitters of information, but facilitators of learning, mentors, and role models. As we gather here today to deliberate, reflect, and exchange ideas, I urge all of us to consider how we can collaboratively build an education system that is equitable, resilient, and responsive to the needs of the 21st century. To the students here today, you are the future of this nation. Embrace learning not just as an end, but as a lifelong pursuit. Your curiosity, passion, and sense of purpose will shape the future of Ghana and beyond. To the organizers of this lecture series, I say, Ayiko, I say, Nagode, I say, Martin Ijiam, I say, Akele, I say, Puhia. I say Ayiko for creating this platform for intellectual discourse. It is through such engagements that we will challenge norms, explore possibilities, and craft pathways to better educational futures. Let us continue to empower minds and shape futures for our children, our communities, and our beloved nation. In closing, in the words of Nelson Mandela, quote, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world," unquote. Let us wield this weapon wisely to shape a future where every Ghanaian child can dream, innovate, and lead. Thank you once again, and may this lecture series inspire transformative discussions and actionable outcomes. God bless our educators. God bless UEW. God bless our motherland, Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's give it up again for the Deputy Minister of Education. So Lisa, right from when the chairperson was speaking, he said very interesting things, you know?
Yes.
And I like the fact that he was saying that at the end of this, think like ancestors, do things like ancestors. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next 3 hours, we will all be ancestors. But we will be living ancestors. You know, when it comes to programs like this, especially education program like this, very insightful, very innovative. We've all seen how the speakers who have spoken so far have spoken highly of our institution, of course. So I'll take the opportunity to tell you the difference between the word finished, complete, and completely finished. Now, when you get the opportunity and by God's grace, God blesses you to be in UEW, and then you finish your school and you are hopeful that you get a job. Of course, when you come here, you get a job, definitely. If you don't even get some, we are noted for creating jobs. The records are there. If you are able to do that, ladies and gentlemen, our graduates are complete. If you go to any other school and then you finish school and you are not able to do that, finish well, you are finished. You understand? But if you come to UW or go to any other school and then you struggle and your mind is not empowered and the future is not sustained, ladies and gentlemen, you are completely finished. Now, we have some dignitaries we have to introduce. We've seen our chairperson. We've seen our vice chancellor. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the chancellor of our university, who also is the paramount chief of the Futu Traditional Area Council. Ladies and gentlemen, with a resounding round of applause, I introduce Nei Gati VII with his entourage. Let's give it up for him. Thank you so much, Nei, for coming. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we also have our acting Pro-Vice Chancellor, Professor Ketri Frimpong Duku. Let's give it up for Professor Ketri Frimpong Duku. Thank you so much, Prof, for coming. We have our acting registrar, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Wilhelmina Tetemensa. Let's give it up for her. Tetemensa, yes. Thank you so much for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, let me switch it up to, we have the principal of our Jumako campus, Professor Mrs. Rebecca Akpangulunati. Let's give it up for her. Okay. We also have a revered person, Okokudufu Hannah Abebio is here with us. Let's give it up for her. Okay. Also from the Winneba High Court, we have, let me pronounce this well before I'm cited for contempt. Now let me give me Her Ladyship, Justice S. Arthur. Let's give it up for her. Let's give it up for her. Okay. Her Ladyship, there was a first name, but because I'm not seeing it well here and I don't want to be cited for contempt, I decided to mention the last one. Please do bear with me, okay? Thank you. Thank you so much. Also, we have our deans and principals present, and I'm seeing the finance officer, Dr. Akoli, here with us. Let's give it up for him. Lisa, please, who do we have there?
So we also have our former Vice Chancellor, Professor Mauto Avoke. Please give it up. We have a former council member, Mr. Alex Bonney. Please give it up. We also have the manager of GOIL here. Please, if you are here, give us a wave. Thank you. We have the principal Community Nursing Training College here in Winneba. Please give us a wave. Okay, we acknowledge you. The Municipal Education Director, Efutu Municipality. Please, if you are here, give us a wave. Okay, they will definitely be here. The Acting Librarian, Miss Agatha Gifty Larson. Please, let's give it up. We have the Acting Internal Auditor, Mr. Charles Kofi. And the final here on my list, we have Dr. Michael Kwashi, the Head of Finance, NACA, who is here representing their director. Please give it up.
Thank you, Lisa. Of course, I am going out of my list and now looking to the audience. Some names, you need to acknowledge them. You cannot come to UEW and miss some names, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, we have some notable professors who have done well, not just for this institution, but for Ghana. We have Professor George can come here with us. Let's give it up for Professor George can come. We also have our own, my very own Professor Esiedu Ado here with us. Let's give it up for Professor Esiedu Ado. Thank you so much. We also have Professor Ama here with us. Let's give it up for Professor Ama. We have Professor Gani here with us. Let's give it up for Professor Gani. We have Professor Amedeke here. Let's give it up for Professor Amedeke. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we also have the former Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University of Education, who happens to be from my school, School of Communication and Media Studies, Professor Andy Ofoebrinkran here with us. Let's give it up to Professor Andy Ofoebrinkran. Of course, and we have the president of all the lecturers here in UEW. Mr. Stephen Osecha is here with us. Let's get up for UTAC president. Great. We also seen the presence of our SRC president and also the GRASAC presidents. Let's give it up for them. Let's give it up for them. Are you guys twins? You always walk together. Anyway, or Liverpool fan, we will never walk alone. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, up next is a gentleman who is very, very talented. I'll not describe what he's coming to do, but when he gets on stage, of course, you will know. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome to this podium Mr. Kwame Dampare. He will arrest you. Thank you so much.
I hear melodies from the oldies, harmonies that are scarce from our colonies, beats that flee through the heat of fingers striking the strings as the singers sing. The mixture of colors makes me anxious, but I swear, I know what pure grace is. We live in the world where the mindset is money. We kill bees, but ask for honey now. Why do you have to kill if you have the power to create and to sustain? The survival of the fittest mentality is telling our totality, and this must cease cause the art of life is like drawing without an eraser. Ago. Ago. Michelle Munina, Yajimia Hinewa. Adiachina, dear saying, Penny become penny sem. Number fra at one answer sem. Naso abofra onim ne nsa ohro de onim penifo ene to nsa didie. Mesra mo monimwa, me pesa me di eto monim. Sem me yemfra me anim. Na mini so ende anima. Na mama me yenhwehwenim ana minim na mabepem e o apimanim. Me de minim dia minim. Me enim di fo me dia ma. Nim atoberi ma minim 20 no. Na nanom di me agina chempon so. Enti edu dwuma de bia na yehwe manim se me bedi anim. Onya yankama bodamo. Aso Oduma nkuma nyankopon se me de edam empare me enti ne yefre me dam pare. Why no? Go no. Enye nana ni gati. Simpatupo a ye ndo osuko. Otwerempa ye twerwa ye mpa hweda. Wona wo so adoto a unsu akrokre. Ose ade ye obedi atu konsro atwebo ana. Wona wodi atwa mantrafi a woni amantrae. Abisanso amanse. Akrakra bempon ofum dwana na obi mfa obenkum emfa onifa waya akukọ fufu akroma sha wonsoe frenchi feche freme fentemfrem omene so no anya akọ afre no na nka peseko waya hene hantafo ode ahene makọ akono na ode nkunimdie ba afie okatachie kantin ka kancheche Kwabram PSA Kukramwa, or the Oboko and in friend, Minnesota Boko, chief and Minnesota, Jinafa friend, or minty minim. O minti minima yehwe who was asin fifi kenken kwa ma India kumenye una ugina kasam prebi poso to be ponto ben kromo boko da na so cross ma mansan twa kuma twetwede o de ojuo o mprese bitre into osoro ama onyansatre into enda e bebo mrane se nyansa bisa nyansa bu akwa nyansa bu so ama akwa nana wonana mempre kasa na so mestre me kasa asembi na abo mipusa enti me na ma na me kasa te se akasa enti adasa mesre muntie me kasa anopai ensem ehhehye mebo enyese mabo na mom esa meto mebo enyese amekwa kopie wa no mabo anampo kumasi abo aha asimpa ka mesie na so aha nya asin enti mesie ahwa na makosensen empenifo se nyansa e ofie enti mesro di machi bokoboko ne enkofie na mimbo otrimu nkofie na minua me nsem no otrim na dachi ebedi hu afofie me nsem mu odu mesramo me won nsem ka enye banku na so me pese meka banku mpo meka abanim by me nsem die abawom enti mesramo meka eya munyindi na entwimo te se eto mesramo eya munyindi na entwimo te se akutia mesramo munyindi na entwimo se sebi soloku me nsem no mu odu enti mesramo momma me apotoyo wa na me mpoto me nsem no na mom enye mpoto sama mpoto mensam na ebia na maka ne poto enti mesra mo moma me mpoto na me poto a metwi enti me ka poto kasa mesa katwi ambassadors, chancellors, scholars, ministers, your excellencies and all protocol observed, my honor to you on reserve. Professor P.L. Lumumba, welcome to Ghana. Right from the onset, you changed your mindset to meet the target set. All this was not without frustration, but you battled every situation. That seems to dwarf your progression, just for your elevation. So with a standing ovation, I give you military salutation. No allurement, no frustration. Just accept my congratulations. Africa, do you know? Do you know you are beautiful without glamour? Even in tattered clothes, your radiance penetrates walls. You stand the fairest among the seven. You are the firstborn, the elephant of the properties you have won. In whatever position the celestial attains, it increases your bounds. The land is blessed for your sake. Do you know you are an eagle, capacitated to maneuver any angle, soaring higher and higher even after battle? Why then are your sons and daughters weren't in flight? They have no odum on which to perch, neither nest in which to roast. Neo-colonialism has malnourished their ideas because they feed on what they don't produce, and what they produce, they never use. If you are beyond age, avoid the debt and the loans. If you are beyond age, feed your chicks with employment because your walls are hungry for development. The eye blinks, the retina shrink. On my paper, tears sink. Why this sorrowful link? I have to ask my ink. I sense this silence of calmness. Our ancestors pressed us to be honest and fearless. When righting wrong, we need to be strong. Not only in song, cause beyond this place of wrath and tears, our faith cook no fears. So tell the north to tell the south, tell the east to tell the west, that the battle between the sun and the moon is not little. Until you give the mantle to the sun, the moon will not rattle to settle. If we are all sitting in a common boat with no life quote, then the quote we wrote from leaders we vote as counts of note. The truth will always stand tall, for lies to fall. Before the employment door, a lot of protocols. When will we shout no more? Better still, where lies our future? When the only language employees understand is who knows you, whom do you know, show appreciation, bring brown envelope, flopping and tracking integrity with inequality. The spirit of Kwame Nkrumah sleeps not, because his sons and daughters have uprooted unity and diversity and planted disunity with calamity, which fruits are beyond fanaticism, favoritism, and nepotism. If the hen ensleeves toast to friendship, in the waves of hardship, each chick swallows in tattered dreams, compelled to cross the life stream. If the head loses direction, in the absence of vision, snows of confusion becomes the option. Where lies the humanitarian compassion we pledge to be our passion? We have lost sense of its flavor and intention, because selfishness and greediness have taken our attention. It needs not to be haggled. Don't ask Google. Our education system in any angle, painfully, wrangling and struggling, waggling as if it's not the key to development. After all, going through it, you still join the unemployment train or drive away in brain drain. Students appear like traffic lights, like doomsaw, within day and night. I think I need to pause. Free education deserves applause. Yet the quantity have taken away the quality, and that's the reality. Teachers' salary is just an insult, because it lacks sauce and salt. Those who beg the future generation, why not treat them with caution? African leaders, listen to their plea. This advice is for free. Indeed, the colors of chameleon are for survival, not beautification. I agree. No wonder one who pledges against corruption now swim in its pools. Bribery and corruption take center stage in every institution, right from the home to the highest organization. Lack of vision sparks confusion in every section. Where lies our future? We choose leaders to solve problems, yet they tend to be another problem. Solve traffic jam, yet they see traffic and jump. Solve unemployment, yet they are allergic to development. Many sword cutting, yet few accomplishment. If one member of parliament earns gratia for a year is greater than one's 20-year salary on touch, then inequality in the balance. Politicians have taken the chance, amassing wealth to their own cause advance. Poverty stricken are below while they overflow, disrupting the status quo. The rich continue to be rich, building rivers from our eyes. The words of wisdom at the end is for the wise. Even Usain Bolt cannot overtake full price. We can't even buy rice. Electricity and water bills, our mega income can't suffice. The economy make hot. The poor always lose in court, while the royalties fly at the airport, exploring and creating their belly pots. Everybody is talking about human rights, but who talks about human wrongs? Where lies our future? Because this is not our nature. Inability to swallow our culture. Truth be told, our cocoa, bauxite, gold, oil, timber are all sold, yet we are poor, wallowing in cold. We are thirsty in abundance of water. Where lies our future? From leadership to fellowship, I smell no friendship. Let's change our thought level and stop blaming the devil. One thing is clear. If we change our mindset to meet the target set, development will be our asset, and our motherland's future will be without measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, having experienced some creative work here, I want to stand on all existing protocols and proceed to introduce the speaker, the first speaker for this august occasion. The chairperson, Mr. Edmond Mukala, UNESCO representative, Ghana. My own Omahene, Oma Odefe Nenyi Gati VII, the paramount chief of Ifutu traditional area, who also doubles as a chancellor for this great institution. My vice chancellor, Professor Stephen Johnson Mitchell, the acting pro vice chancellor, and all other senior members and convocation here present. I deem it an honor and privilege to introduce the first speaker for this morning's lecture. I'm a Fante, and definitely I will be pronouncing the name in my Fante tonation. He is Dr. Samuel Granting Pipim. He's a US-based Ghanaian author, inspirational speaker, leadership trainer, and advocate for youth empowerment. He was trained in engineering and systematic theology and has authored 26 books, including best-selling works on inspiration and Africa's renewal and transformation. He currently directs the Empowerment and Advisory Group for Leadership, Excellence and Service, with acronym EAGLES, and African Network and Advisory for Needed Services and Excellence, the acronym ANANSE. Centers for Leadership Development, where he promotes excellence and mind liberation to drive transformational change. He speaks extensively around the world at events for youth, students, professionals, and civic and religious leaders. Dr. Pipim delivered a keynote message at the 2018 African Heads of State Summit Prayer Breakfast at the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The summit was themed, Winning the Fight Against Corruption, a Sustainable Path to Africa's Transformation. For 12 years, Dr. Pipim served as a director of public campus ministries, ministering to students, faculty, and staff at the University of Michigan, USA. In that role, he grandfathered and mentored many grassroots youth and young professional movements around the world. As a visiting lecturer and adjunct professor, he has taught courses in theology, ethics, and transformational leadership at several universities in Africa, Asia, Australia, Europe, North and South America, and even Ukraine and Russia as well. He has also conducted Bible lectures for students in leading universities like Harvard, MIT, Manchester, Stanford, and the like. His public Bible lecture encapsulates a wide variety of subjects which are presented in winsome and dynamic way that engages both the hearts and minds of his audiences, whether secular or religious. Believing in the ideals of Pan-Africanism and the Pan and African Renaissance as enshrined in the AU's Agenda 2063 document, and believing that university communities play an indispensable role in creating the Africa we want, Dr. Pipim has felt compelled to traverse the continent to present his life-transforming messages in some 30-plus African countries and universities as well. Dr. Pipim is a lifelong student in the School of Adversities, Hardship and Pain, and seeks to encourage students who are similarly enrolled in the school. Hence, in addition to his multi-pronged and multidisciplinary engagements, Dr. Pipim also serves as a personal growth and executive coach through his Sankofa coaching platform. He focuses on one, busy executives and leaders who are struggling privately with real-life issues, and young adults and professionals who are navigating challenges and personal failures. For more than a decade, Dr. Pipim has also been engaged in resolving disputes as a mediator. While transitioning to Ghana, Dr. Pipim served as corporate executive and in residence at the University of Ghana Business School's Innovation and Incubation Hub. He also serves as executive president of the African Foundation for Excellence and Service, where he oversees youth leadership development, entrepreneurship, transformational education, and diaspora relations. Dr. Pipim's 3 decades of experience in transformational leadership development, campus chaplaincy, and spiritual care, and inspirational lectures and publications have impacted thousands of young people around the world. He has mentored countless students and young professionals and has served as a consultant, trainer, and also advisor to various youth organizations and institutions. I would like to do a quick blurb. AU Diaspora Consultative Group on Agenda 2063, African Union Directorate, ADR, AGRF, and the like, Yali Young African Leadership Initiative. But Dr. Pipim's emphasized that Africa's most urgent want is the want of transformational leaders. It drives this passion to train and mentor the youth to be Africa's leaders. His well-known philosophical convictions in leadership development include the following. Leadership is not about you, but begins with you. Great leaders train people to succeed them. And he said that mindless religion is one of Africa's woes. We don't think our religion is 100 kilometers wide and only 1 millimeter deep. Ladies and gentlemen, based on the above leadership philosophical convictions, Dr. Pippin stresses that Africa's renewal and survival requires ethical values, visionary thinking, selfless and sacrificial services, and a reliance on Christ as the ultimate solution. Dr. Pippin's hobbies include reading, writing, and all that. Ladies and gentlemen, shall we receive Dr. Samuel Granton Pippin as he mounts the podium to embolden our minds in shaping futures for 21st century education. Shall we give it up? Shall we give it up as he comes off stage?
It is said that the length of the introduction of a speaker is inversely proportional to the worth of the person. Why is it that in Africa we spend hours to introduce a speaker and give that person minutes to speak? I say this in good sense. Thank you so much for the introduction. It is a real privilege to be here with you. Honorable Chancellor, Paramount Chief of the Futu Traditional Area, Nana Nene Kate, you are welcome. Distinguished Vice Chancellor of the University, Prof. P.L.O, I always enjoy your presence. Your sense of humor has a way of allaying every fear. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Members of the University Council, provosts, deans, heads of department, faculty, staff, and students. The Minister of Education, ably represented by the Deputy Minister, Honorable Apak. I didn't know we had some things in common until we met behind the scene. UNESCO Rep, Dr. Mukala, it has been a pleasure just hearing you speak. And thank you for what you are doing for Africa. Distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, I'm greatly honored to be here with my great friend, Professor P.L.O. Lumumba. In a way, I love my role because I am like John the Baptist, the voice crying in the wilderness, preparing the way for you. Thank you so much for coming to Ghana again. Ghana is your home, and we welcome you back to where you belong. It is with profound gratitude and humility that I stand before you today at this esteemed university, noted for its unique role of training the future teachers of our nation. Thank you for extending this invitation to me to speak on the theme, Empowering Minds, Shaping Futures, the prospects and challenges of Ghana's 21st century education. Before I share some few thoughts on the theme, allow me to publicly recognize two of my esteemed colleagues. Her Ladyship, Justice Dorinda Smith Arthur, who is a High Court judge. She is also the Vice President for our Anansi Center. Thank you so much for coming. I also want to recognize Dr. James Kwabena Bonfe. Where are you? There he is. He's popularly known as Dr. Kabila. He's a social commentator, political thinker, advocate for persons with disability, and also a staunch Nkrumahist. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Let me begin my presentation at the beginning with a definition. The definition of education. Simply put, education is mind empowerment. In fact, several well-known quotes on the purpose and nature of education clearly suggest that education is mind liberation, mind empowerment. Albert Einstein said, quote, "Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think." Martin Luther King Jr. said, quote, "The function of education is not to teach, is not just to teach, but to teach people to think intensively and to think critically." In this presentation, I would adopt the definition given by the father of African education, the Booker T. Washington of Africa, Dr. J.E.K. Agri. He said, and I quote, "By education, I do not mean simply learning. I mean the training in the mind, in morals, and also in hand. That helps to make one socially efficient." He continues by saying, "Not simply the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, but the 3 H's, the head, the hand, and the heart." Finally, in her classic book titled Education, a contemporary of Dr. Agri offers a more expanded definition of education. Ellen White wrote, "True education means more than the pursuit of a certain course of study. It means more than a preparation for the life that now is. It has to do with the whole being and with the whole period of existence possible to man. True education," she says, "is the harmonious development of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual powers. It prepares the student for the joy of service in this world and for the higher joy of the world to come." What is common in all of this, if you were paying attention, is the clear acknowledgement that, amongst other things, education is the empowering of the mind. And when minds are thus empowered, it has the potential of transforming the lives of individuals and that of the larger society. It is for this reason that education has long been recognized as the cornerstone of development. In fact, Nelson Mandela aptly declared, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." And Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, placed education at the heart of national development. He championed policies that expanded access and laid the foundation for an educated citizenry. The question before us today, which I am sure our distinguished guest speaker, Professor Lumumba, would help us answer, is what will it take to equip students with the right mindsets and skills as well as values for the 21st century? As I was preparing for this lecture, honestly, I didn't know what to say. As up to last night, I had about 25 pages of notes with an order of up to 10 points. Then I thought perhaps I should play a trick on all of you. Instead of giving a lecture, I will simply stand before you and share some slides about what it means or what an empowered man looks like. I'll simply share with you the stories of ordinary students who have been empowered and what they are doing in Ghana, on the continent of Africa, and the world. But I felt that, hey, I'm before you, so I have to say something to sound a little scholarly. So I decided that of the 10 points or the 10 headings, at least I'll just handle one of them. The rest are just footnotes. So what I'm coming to do, I'll begin by sharing with you Ghana's education, past and present. The great Nigerian writer Chinua Achebe once said, if you don't know where the rain began to beat you, you cannot know where your dried body. And so before we even talk about the future of education, let us briefly reflect on where we have come from and where we are today. Let me give you a brief historical context. Ghana's educational journey began long before the colonial contact. It began with indigenous systems of knowledge, which were deeply embedded in our cultural practices. Then, during the colonial era, our present formal Western education was introduced primarily by missionary organizations, with the first Castle School established in Elmina in 1644. Post-independence, under the visionary leadership of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, education became the central pillar of nation building, with the Education Act of 1961 making primary education free and compulsory. Since then, our educational system has undergone various reforms. The 1987 educational reform introduced the junior and senior secondary school system. In 2007, reforms brought about further structural changes. And more recently, the introduction of the free senior high school policy in 2017. Each of these reforms attempted to address the educational needs of the country at different stages of our development. It is these historical antecedents that have shaped our current educational landscape. And so now, permit me to present to you the state of education in Ghana today. I am even wondering whether to say what I'm about to say, because you expect some good news from me. But let me begin with the bad news. Because at no time do we have the highest concentration of teachers and the highest concentration of professors like we have right now. In this very room are the educators par excellence. So what do I tell you? In the months leading to this lecture, I interviewed a number of people and read quite a bit to get a sense of what people think about the state of education in Ghana, why education is what it is, and what should be done about it. In the next few minutes, I will share with you my observation and evaluation of the present state of education in Ghana. And Professor Lumumba, you are welcome to Ghana. Allow me to tell you what Ghanaians think about the state of education. And I know the Lord will place on your heart to speak to our souls and our consciences. I'll begin by sharing with you this statement. If education is a passport to the future, Ghana's passport is filled with expired visas. We are trying to enter the 21st century with credentials that were forged in colonial classrooms. My assertion is not without basis. In fact, the following unsettling questions call for honest answers. Is our education system truly preparing people for the 21st century? Why are graduates jobless, but employers struggle to find skilled laborers? Is Ghanaian education creating thinkers or trained robots? Here's my thesis statement. Education should not be a factory line producing certificates. It should rather be a furnace, refining minds for useful service in today's world and the world to come. And I have data to support this. According to the Ghana Statistical Service report, 23% of tertiary educated individuals experience long-term unemployment. By the age of 10, according to the World Bank, nearly 80% of Ghanaian children cannot read and understand a simple sentence. It seems to me that our present educational system is not only woefully inadequate for the present needs, but also for the future. Why are our educational system needing overhauling? I'll offer 5 reasons. We are teaching the 21st century using a 19th century model. Our curriculum is bloated with theory, but bankrupt in creativity. Our classrooms are lecture heavy, but engagement light. And the data supports this. According to the UNESCO Global Education Monitoring Report 2022, learning in Ghana remains predominantly by rote. Standardized testing dominates, but real life skill acquisition is minimal. If post-independence leaders walked into our classrooms today, they would find our classrooms unchanged from what they left. But if we walked into a 21st century workplace, we would be unfit. Another reason why we need to look at the educational system is we seek to impart knowledge, but is the knowledge we are imparting practically relevant? We have engineers who cannot fix a light bulb. I'm one of them. We have lawyers who can't argue a case in court. Accountants who cannot analyze figures. Teachers who cannot teach. And graduates who cannot write a coherent paragraph. You see, friends, degrees don't equal competence. There is a gaping disconnect between academia and industry needs, and the data supports it. According to ISA, the State of Ghanaian Economy 2022, 40% of employers in Ghana say our graduates lack critical problem-solving skills. What good is a first-class degree if it leads to a third-class life? The point is this: the education system is divorced from entrepreneurship, innovation, and critical thinking. Another reason for the state of education in Ghana is our education is training people for poverty and not prosperity. We produce job seekers, not job creators. The system rewards paper over productivity. The obsession with white-collar jobs has stifled innovation and entrepreneurial spirit. Once again, the data supports it. I'll just quote you the data. Though 38% of Ghanaians engage in early-stage entrepreneurship, the system does little to build upon it. Our education trains students for job queues, not value creation. Another thing about our educational system is it silences minds. Our classrooms are graveyards for curiosity. We drill students to regurgitate, not to reason. Creativity is punished. Conformity is rewarded. Students memorize formulas, but they can't solve problems. The radical question to answer is this: is our education a system relic of colonial control, or is it a tool for national development? That's another reason. I told you I'm here to bear the bad news. And then after that, we'll begin to solve the problems. There is a mental colonization of students through our educational systems. Our students know Shakespeare, but not Aikwe Ama and Chinua Achebe. We know Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein, but we do not know of Isaiah Blankson and Ashite Trebi Olenu in their contributions to NASA space exploration, aeronautics, and robotics. We know of these great scientists, but how many of us know of Thomas Mensah, a pioneer in the development of fiber optic manufacturing and nanotechnology? Do we know of Professor Francis Alote in the field of mathematics and astrophysics? Our schools of music celebrate classical composers like Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, and Tchaikovsky. But we seldom highlight our own classical composers like Dr. Ephraim Amu, Professor J.H. Kwabranketia, Dr. Philip Beho, Dr. Kenneth Kafui, exceptional Ghanaians who have given a wealth of inspirational and patriotic music that have molded the ethos and thinking of our nation, our continent, Africa, and the world. Our curriculum glorifies foreign heroes and erases African geniuses. We still think in English, we write in borrowed philosophies, and dream in foreign paradigms. And the UNESCO report bears this out. 90% of African secondary syllabi reflect Western worldviews. 90%. Until we teach from our own story, we will continue living in someone else's future. I'll give another point. There are suggestions in view of all these realities. You just pay attention. Ask people on the street, tell me about education in Africa, in Ghana, and they'll start telling you this. And then I ask them, so what should we do about them? And here are some of the responses I got, and as I reflected through the literature, I came to the conclusion that these make sense. Suggestion number one, we must move from the classroom to the marketplace. Our education must produce wealth. Every student must graduate with monetizable skill. Entrepreneurship should become core, not cosmetic. STEM, AI, digital skills must be at the core of education. A benchmark, we can look at what Rwanda is doing, where it has mandated technical vocational pathway by the age of 15. Let graduation in our schools be a launch pad, not a finish line. Another suggestion, we must move from degree to delivery, from practical industry-linked education that must form the hub of our educational system. Universities must partner with industries. Ghana must adopt a dual educational system, 50% classroom, 50% in the real world practice. There are best practice. We can look at the German Berufshaus building, modern, integrates hands learning, and it has reduced unemployment in Germany to under 6%. You see, theory without traction is fiction. We must move our educational emphasis from dumping information on students to allowing them to think. In other words, we must raise a generation that questions. We must not just accept the status quo. We must put quo in the status. Exams should assess creativity, not cramming. Schools must teach disruption, not just blind obedience. We must encourage artistic expression, entrepreneurship, and non-traditional success pathways. And we must allow our students to experiment, even to fail. For if we don't allow them to fail, we are failing them. Finland eliminated standardized testing below age 16, and they are doing very well. So let's not just raise students to mindlessly obey, but rather to lead. That leads me to suggestion number 4. We must move from foreign models to indigenous solutions. We must teach African history, African science, literature, and innovation, not just the Western thought. We must develop an Afrocentric curriculum rooted in local reality and global excellence. A case in point, Kenya's competency-based curriculum includes African history, practical skills, and civic entrepreneurship. We must stop exporting our best minds to build other nations. It is time to build Ghana, not allow our best to leave our shores. Our schools must produce patriots, not escape artists. We must move from access to empowerment. Ghana's rural digital coverage is only 32%, according to the Ghana Chamber of Telecoms. We need equity in digital infrastructure, teacher training, and curriculum tools. A child who is born in Bolgatanga must have the same digital privileges as the one who is born in East Legon. We must let students have a say in their future. We must center youth voice and youth well-being. What this may mean is we must establish innovation councils, prioritize mental health, emotional intelligence, and resilience. And we must let the students, the young people, tell us the future we are envisioning. You know, I was at one African Union event during the consultation for Agenda 2063. I happened to be one of the few diasporans invited to add my views. At that time, I had published my book, Africa Must Think. So they brought about 40 scholars from the diasporan world. And I'm not just talking about Africans in diaspora, but black people from ages, from South America, Central America, etc. And then when it was my turn to present, it caught me off guard to look around the 40 representatives who are to give input for another 50 years of Africa life. I discovered all the people there were old. And so I asked, with all due respect, Mr. Organizers of this African Union event, we are planning for the youth. In 2 weeks' time, we will all be dead. So where are the youth? My point is this. Mind empowerment and youth empowerment means that if the future belongs to the youth, let them help in designing it. In fact, an annual conference of this kind must have some young people here to speak to us. Otherwise, we are doing a disservice. Our education must also promote African values, African ethics, and character development. What is the essence of an education if it does not develop the students for service? And I'm not talking about self-service, I'm talking about public service. What value is our education if we don't inculcate the spirit of volunteerism amongst our people? Of what use is our education if we train brilliant but corrupt graduates? Mahatma Gandhi said, education without character is a social sin. C.S. Lewis said, education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make man more clever devil. But one African scholar, Kingsley Asamoah, said, education without morality creates educated devils, and educated devils abuse, corrupt, and destroy institutions and systems. If you want to know the problem of Ghana, the problem of Africa, it is because we have educated people without values. And so we have corruption at the highest level. My own former profession, engineering, tops the list of the most corrupt professionals in Ghana. Just before COVID, I was to come and give the keynote address for the Ghana Institute of Engineers, as well as the American counterparts. And one of the concerns is, of all corrupt people in Ghana, it is not the police, it is not the politicians, it is engineers. So what is the value of an engineering degree when we are corrupt? What is the value of an accounting degree when we are corrupt? True education leads to a change of mindset and an attitude that will produce the leaders and citizens we want. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah painted a picture of the kind of citizenry we should. And allow me to quote it. Africa needs a new type of citizen, I'm quoting, a dedicated, modest, honest, and informed man, a man or woman who submerges self in service to the nation and mankind, a man who abhors greed and detests vanity, a new type of man whose humility is his strength and whose integrity is his greatness. That is Kwame Nkrumah. And in his inaugural Independence Day speech, that midnight speech, when you go there, you will see Kwame Nkrumah saying, we need a new kind of African with a new mindset. So if we are talking about empowering minds, the empowerment of our minds is to produce not just leaders, but citizens across the board who exude these values. Ellen White says the greatest want of the world is not the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. Men whose consciences are true to duty as a needle to the pole. Men who will stand for the right though the heavens fall. These are the values that must emanate, that must come out of our educational systems. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just given you the executive summary and I need not say more. In fact, in the remaining 9 points, I add details with facts. And in order not to leave you in despair, Ghana is doing some amazing things in our educational systems. Incredible things. Sometimes you live in it so you don't even realize it. And so I'll just give you the highlights. My next point, I would have talked about the global context of education, because we cannot talk about in the future of African education, Ghanaian education, without taking into consideration the global context. And we don't also have to ignore the African context, which is enshrined in the aspirations of Agenda 2063. 21st century, of which we are talking about, is characterized by unprecedented technological advancement, globalization, complex socio-economic challenges, the fourth industrial revolution, marked by artificial intelligence, robotics, biotechnology, etc., etc. And I wish I can give you the figures. What UNESCO is telling us, the World Economic Forum tells us, the skills most in demand now, in the next future, they would not be needed. What will be needed? Critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, complex problem solving. And then UNESCO also gives us other information. And then, of course, I could talk about Ghana's current realities. But for the sake of those who may be listening to this and think it's all bad news in Ghana, let me mention that Ghana is doing marvelously well in digital transformation in our educational systems. Since COVID-19, Ghana is developing virtual classrooms to digital libraries. The iCampus initiative, the Edmundo Ghana are examples of digital platforms Ghana is innovating. The Ministry of Education's One Teacher, One Laptop initiative. Yes, I know there are problems with this implementation, but it marks a step in the right direction. I can talk about curriculum renewal. Ghana is also doing tremendously well, and I would say that this university is at the forefront of such discussions. curriculum renewal based on competency-based curriculum. I can talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now we have added A, the arts. So it's not just STEM, it is STEAM. And then TVET, technical vocational education and training. Ghana is also doing well in teacher development. The Teacher Professional Development Framework, which is being rolled out, yes, in fits, is something worth celebrating. Industry education partnerships is another thing Ghana is doing well. We are teaming up with strategic partners. Universities like KNUST have established innovation hubs that connect students with industry. University of Ghana Business School has an innovation and incubation hub. Amstead, I was there 2 weeks ago, has also a hub. I was at the University of Energy and Natural Resources. They are doing similarly. And the Vice President tells me, I was here last year, that is what this university is also doing. So yes, we are doing some good things. Another good thing we are doing, we are inculcating indigenous knowledge in our educational system. The African Studies Association has documented some of the things we can do. I can talk about Afrocentric education in a modern context. Ghana is also leading the way. And I can talk about how it is spreading to our chieftaincy, the Manshia Palace Museum's digital archive, mobile application like the Learn-Chui, the convergence of Afrocentric content and modern technological delivery. Ghana is doing well, but can we do better? Absolutely. And so conversations of this kind should not just have a candid assessment of the state of education. We must also laud the good things we are doing and strengthen and improve upon it. There are challenges, and the challenges include resource constraints. Always we talk about money. There are challenges on quality versus quantity dilemma. We are pumping out graduates from the high schools and universities, but the quality is low. What I said about religion applies to our education. It is 100 kilometers wide, 1 millimeter deep. Digital divide, not only along gender, but also along abilities. Assessment paradigms are challenges. Teacher motivation and quality. I recall when our honorable poet, by the way, that poet did marvelous. Let's give him a hand. And he mentioned that, the teacher's salary is nothing to take home with. And I saw the cheers. Rightfully so. But monetary incentives are not enough. We need a generation who believe that there is something more compelling than monetary gain. And so we need to work. Our teachers today should not just be preoccupied with pay, but we must offer the very best, knowing that God will help provide for us. Yes. Finally, allow me. I can tell you are all looking for the money. In fact, that is why 68,000 of you have enrolled here. You get free allowance, free money, but listen, with all due respect, the money will come. But let's do things right. All right. I think I've said more than enough. Let me close it. I mentioned that originally I was going to conclude by showing you slides of ordinary Ghanaians who sat in lectures like this, some of which I delivered on the various university campuses. They took it, and now they are having an impact in many fields. But time wouldn't allow. So let me conclude. As I conclude, I'm reminded of Paulo Freire, a Brazilian educator and philosopher, his conception of education as a practice of freedom, an emancipatory process that enables individuals to read both the word and the world. In the context of Ghana's education, we need an education that is liberating in multiple dimensions. Liberation from poverty through relevant skills. Liberation from ignorance through access to quality learning experiences and information. Liberation from prejudice through education that promotes critical consciousness and social justice. We need liberation from dependency through fostering creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurial mindset. The challenges facing Ghana are formidable, but so is our collective resilience and ingenuity. The University of Education, Winneba, as Ghana's foremost teacher education institution, has a pivotal role in the transformation journey. By preparing teachers who can navigate complexities of the 21st century, UEW contributes directly to shaping the future of our nation. I call upon all stakeholders, government officials, educators, parents, students, and community to commit to a renewed vision of education that is truly empowering and future-oriented. In the words of Dr. Agri, only the best is good enough for Africa. Education, ladies and gentlemen, is more than an institution. It is a social contract that binds us to future generations. Let us be bold in our reforms, unwavering in our commitments, united in our vision for Ghana, where every learner has the opportunity to reach their fullest potential. Friends, the time to act is now. Ladies and gentlemen, now is a defining moment. To policymakers, don't fund bureaucracy, fund ideas. To educators, don't just dump information, not just curricula, but teach people to think and to do. Students, demand growth, not just grades. Industry, invest in minds, not just profits. Will Ghana's education system be a burial ground of dreams or a launch pad for national transformation? An empowered mind is a dangerous thing. It is dangerous to ignorance, dangerous to poverty, and dangerous to oppression. The question is, will Ghana unleash its minds or continue to silence them? Thank you very much.
Let's do it again. Dr. Samuel Krante Pimpim. And that was a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Okay, so we've had a very insightful one from Dr. Samuel Pimpim. Now, let me take this opportunity together with my colleague here to introduce some people who left. Lisa, please, who do we have there?
Okay, Bismarck. So we also have Professor Victor Ainchi, who is our former Pro-Vice Chancellor. Please, let's give it up. And he came with Nana Bawa II, and she is the Odiko Hima of Echumako Babenso. Bismarck, let's see what you have.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. We also have Professor Ivan Sasante, the Vice Dean of School of Creative Arts. Let's give it up for him. We have the Dean of School of Business, Professor Richard Odro. Let's give it up for him also. We have Professor Hine C also here with us. We have Professor Asunaba. We have Dr. Amabrefi, Professor Peter Akayuri. They are all here with us. We have Professor Vincent, a principal at SDA College of Education. Thank you so much for coming. We have Dr. Oba Penyi also here with us. We have the former head of operations, Professor Francis Tay, here with us. We have the Dean of Students Affairs, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Mrs. Avoke, also here with us. We have Dr. Latifa Ama Osei, UTAC Treasurer, also here with us. We have Professor Lucy Atom, Director, Office of Institutional Advancement, also here with us. Prof, thank you so much for coming. And we have the MCE nominee of the Futu municipality here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Henry Abraham Arthur is here with us. Thank you so much, my brother, for coming. We also want to let you know that UEW, this event is streaming. In fact, it's showing live on JoyNews. So those of you at home, you can watch us live on JoyNews. Give it up for UEW. Come on, give it up for UEW.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. We also have the sector head of education, Ms. Perpetual Meg Anan, who is from Access Bank, Ghana. Please, let's give it up. Yeah. We have Mr. Ohene Mensah from Elcat Enterprise Limited. Ms. Abba Kamasa from Gloriaca Hotel. She is the CEO. Please give it up. We have the managers of UEW Credit Union also present. And then the CEO of Echo Capital Investment is also here. We have the CEO of VED Investment, CEO of JK Industries and Investment, and the UEW alumni president and executives are also featuring here. This is my goodness.
Definitely, you can see that we've pulled together a lot of dignitaries. Our 2,500 capacity Jovus Anamwa Men's Auditorium is packed. Let's give it up for ourselves. And permit me to break protocol to let us all do something. You know, we are in the era of social media. Do something for us. Pick your phone, take a picture of yourself, put it on your Facebook, your status, and write UEW Public Lecture. Are you here with me? Are you here with me? Let me see your smartphone. Let me see it. Not yours, not yours. Smartphones. Okay, let's do it. Please just put something on your social media handle, put it there, say UEW Public Lecture, and the theme is Empowering Minds, Sustaining Futures in the 21st Century. Please do that for us. Let's go, let's be viral, okay? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Let's put our school out there. Let's change the narrative. Let's also acknowledge the sponsors, Access Bank, our main sponsors. They've done so well, and UEW Credit Union. As we wait for the main speaker, of course, I wanted to say a proverb before he comes, but I'll leave that and do it and leave it to the Department of Theater Arts Dance Group to give us an amazing performance. Ladies and gentlemen, stay glued in your seat and enjoy this one.
My nation is disorganized like a random auction. Her constitution is an ovation for corruption. Sanitation has been seeking attention, but with no proper redemption. Election is a mere correlation. We wear gown and some cap to take a paper on an occasion they call congregation. And we call that education. That's really fashion. They claim to test our ability of intelligence, but they only test our memories on some histories. They dig the sea to refine crude oil, but see, they never try to redefine intelligence. Intelligence is not the ability of one to rewrite the achievement of some great people, but the capability of one to use the mind to deduce and induce to reduce the problems in the nation. Our education has no implication in the nation. They put the fate of students on examination, but they don't know examination is azar to the nation. More practice has become more than a practice, and it's now a culture. If agriculture is to be a picture, we cannot take a capture because it has turned to a rapture left for the vulture. Workers strike more than a tender. Unemployment is an impairment. Entertainment is an ailment. Tourism is shaking like autism. Patriotism has been replaced with nepotism. Energy has been in a crisis since I was in class 6. How can a 68-year-old nation have 60% of air transportation to be poor? How can a tech student with aggregate A in Java cannot create an app? I think the nation is taking a nap. Greediness is first. Our health is a mess. The nation is sick, but nobody is thinking about remedy. Only comedy. Everything is funny. I don't know if the next generation will have a taste for honey. For our weather is too sunny that we don't even have sanity for money. We hate our economy, bitter than acrimony. Our politicians are like magicians. They put their students out of the nation to seek proper education and leave us here for starvation. They dig the ground to mine gold, but they never dig inside their minds to find goals. The nation has no vision. She sways like a fallen curtain. Every 8 years, change of agenda. Oh, Mother Ghana, we need a savior. So here I am asking, how can we be better than them? The knowledge we seek is weaved by them. The redemption we seek is controlled by them. Our price was paid to them. So how can we be better than them? The money we chase is minted and printed by them. Our culture is diluted by them. The luxury we long is invented by them. The life we crave is lived by them. The music we listen is produced by them. So how can we be better than them? It's about time you resurrect the power of Nkrumah, Biko, Sankara, King, Malcolm X. Now we have in our midst Professor Lumumba. From the slums of Kenya, he rises and speaks with vigor and hair. He has a dream like Martin Luther. The braveness of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. His attitude has stood the test. Fearless like Malcolm X. He holds no grudges, but his allegiance is for the well-being of the continent of Africa. Professor Patrick Loch Otieno Lumumba. On behalf of the University of Education, Winneba, I, the pen god, I say, Tunako Karibisha.
That was a splendid performance by the School of Creative Art. Please, another round of applause. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. The chairman of this special occasion, the representative of the Honorable Minister for Education, distinguished guests, the Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor, and other principal officers of this great university, the University of Education, Winneba. Nananom, members of the convocation, staff and students, friends from the media, and all other distinguished dignitaries present. A great philosopher once said, "Our science is a drop, and our ignorance an ocean." If I want to talk about our distinguished speaker for this great occasion, I would end up only touching on a drop in the ocean of achievements, successes, and laurels. His entire life is simply a remarkable life of success, and anyone who has been in contact with him will attest to this fact. There is a Nigerian adage which says, when you see the shadow of a person at a place, it signifies the actual presence of that person. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a great shadow has been cast upon us today, and I'm happy to announce that this great man is actually with us. Permit me to offer you a few captivating teasers from our distinguished speaker before I proceed with my introduction. The tragedy of Africa is that Africans are in the business of canonizing thieves and demonizing its saints. We elect hyenas to take care of goats, and when the goats go missing, we wonder why. We must decolonize our education system and revolutionize our curriculum. We need another kind of education. We need a kind of education that changes our minds and hearts. The kind of education that revolutionizes our minds and hearts. These are certainly not my words. They belong to the sage professor, whose powerful voice we shall be hearing in few moments from now. It is, of course, my greatest pleasure to introduce to you a remarkable son of Africa who graces us today as a keynote speaker for this much revered public lecture. His name is well known across Africa and beyond, and so a lengthy introduction is not required. But for the sake of protocol, kindly allow me to introduce him briefly. He is a distinguished Kenyan lawyer, constitutional expert, academic, activist, and politician who has extensively been celebrated and decorated for his exceptional public service and significant contributions to academia, legal, and political spheres. Renowned across Africa and beyond for his powerful oratory, he has garnered widespread recognition for his insightful lectures on ethics, leadership, national sovereignty, and governance, solidifying his reputation as one of the continent's most influential speakers. He's a prolific writer. He's the author of several books on a wide range of subjects and has been twice recognized as one of the 100 most influential Africans by New African magazine, among other notable recognitions and accolades received. Distinguished audience, it is my pleasure to present to you today the man of the hour, a true crown jewel of Africa.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You may resume your seat. Thank you very much. Let me, for the sake of protocol,
start by recognizing the Chancellor of the University of Education. Permit me also to recognize the Vice Chancellor, the representative of the Minister for Education, the representative of UNESCO here present, the student body here at the University of Education. And it's also right to say that I'm a husband of one wife, and she is present here. And to also recognize 3 young people who work with me here in Ghana and who have traveled all the way from Kumasi, that is Razak and Idrisu, and Anna Nanor, who have traveled all the way to Cape Coast. It gladdens my heart to be present here in Ghana. When I listened to my good friend, Professor Samuel, there was a sense in which he took the thunder from my presentation. And if I was a judge, as is our leadership, I would have said that I have had the advantage of listening to him and that I have nothing useful to add, save to associate myself with his views in toto. But things are being done this afternoon for the sake of protocol. And for the sake of protocol, I'll have something to say. And the thing that I will say speaks to education. You know, today, when we talk about Africa, we talk about her in the manner in which we know her after the colonial project. So we talk about Ghana as if Ghana started existence in 1957. We talk about the 54 recognized countries as if there was no life before they regained their independence. We talk about education as if prior to the coming into the continent of the colonizers, led by the Portuguese, whose handiwork you see at Elmina, prior to the advent of the British, the French, the Dutch, the Italians, and the Germans, and even the Arabs, that we did not exist and there was no education. That is a falsehood. We know that when the Europeans were still living in darkness, here in West Africa, there were organized kingdoms. We know there were universities. We know there was education that did not entail the issuance of certificates as the badge of education. If you ever doubted this, you only have to familiarize yourself with the works of Senegal's Cheikh Anta Diop. Cheikh Anta Diop reminds us that the Greeks learned their mathematics here, that their theories of construction were learned here, that there were great artists here, Africa had a golden age. But we must never make the mistake of romanticizing the past and forgetting that we have now and the future to live for. Indeed, our very presence here under the theme Empowering Minds and Shaping the Continent for the 21st Century is a reminder to us that we have a duty to reclaim our past. And what we are doing here has been done several years before. Students of history will tell you that as early as 1906, that great South African Pixley Kaisaka Seme, then a student at the University of Columbia, gave an iconic speech, The Regeneration of Africa. And he reminded us that we have a duty as Africans to regenerate ourselves. You only regenerate that which had been generated. He was right. Those of you who are Ghanaians will remember that great Ghanaian, James Emmons Kwejiragri, ordinarily referred to as Agri of Africa. And you'll remember him reminding us that although we have, courtesy of colonization, been fed on chicken feed for too long, we are eagles and we can fly and soar. We are here to remind ourselves that the time is now to reimagine and to rethink Africa. We must also remind ourselves that when we talk about Ghana, we must never make the mistake of confining ourselves to the geographical space that is called Ghana. We must remember those iconic words and immortal words of the Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah. On the day when you celebrated the regaining of Ghana's independence, and you said, the independence of Ghana means nothing if the rest of Africa is not independent. And it did not just mean the continent of Africa. It meant our kith and kin in the diaspora, to be found in the Caribbean, to be found in the United States of America, to be found in Europe, to be found in Australia. He meant all of them. And today we are here to talk about rethinking of education, because we in Africa have borne the brunt of abuse. That which we had was disrupted. In Mali, which is not too far from here, in the 14th century, long before the American Declaration of Independence, long before the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, long before all these declarations that you hear about, there lived a man, Sundiata Keita. And there was a Declaration of Human Rights, the Mandian Charter. You could not write a charter if you had no education. We had education. You are not far from Benin. The walls of Benin, history will tell you, were longer than the great walls of China. The Europeans and Americans are now admitting that they stole our artifacts and they are returning them. We had education here. The Monomotapa Empire in what is now called Zimbabwe. The Akan peoples here, the Ga, the Ewe, the Mandinka, the Bambara, the Mosi, the Baganda, the Ovambo and Ovimbundu in Angola had systems of governance. That is why you say Nananum. There is wisdom in that. So when somebody comes here and tells you that we only started governing ourselves when something called democracy was introduced to us, he is a liar. And we are telling ourselves that we were disrupted. This is why we have this conversation today. The disruption was so great that today, here in Ghana, when you go to Tamale, the Moba people are to be found in Togo and to be found in Ghana. And somebody wants to tell us that the Moba in Ghana are Anglophone and the Moba in Togo are Francophone. It cannot be true. Somebody tells us that the Ovambo and the Ovimbundu in Angola are Lusophone because they were colonized by the Portuguese, and that they are kith and kin in the Democratic Republic of Congo are Francophone because they were colonized by the Belgians. It cannot be true. But the disruption was so thorough that when we regained our independence, or even before, we were told that our names were not good. So that when you are Christianized, and you are Pipim, and you went for baptism, and you renounced the devil with all his works, they also said you have to be John, because in their scheme of things it appears that the heavens only recognize John, not Pipim. We were told that all the education we had acquired meant nothing. So that if you are eloquent in Ga or in Chui, you are not intelligent. You are only intelligent in English. You can only be intelligent in French. In Portuguese, we now know that that is nonsense. And you know, when that great Nigerian musician in the 1980s, fella Anikula Pokuti said, "Teacher, don't teach me nonsense." He meant it. He was reminding us that we must examine our education system. You know, when the British came here, and they were establishing schools across Africa. And then when they were establishing Achimota, which is famous for producing great Ghanaians, the intention was to produce young men and women who would support the colonial empire. The intention was the same in Uganda with Budo's King's College. It was the same in Kenya with the Alliance schools. As Chinua Achebe says, The white man was clever. He came and put a knife in the things that held us together, and things fall apart. And they have remained apart. So today, when we come here to talk about education, we come here to remind ourselves that we have urgent business to be undertaken. We have urgent business to be undertaken to remind ourselves that Martin Luther King Jr. is still right. The mind is the standard of the man. Because if the mind cannot imagine, then we cannot realize our potential. So we are here to interrogate our education system. My good friend, Samuel Pippin, doing the work that he came to do, to lay the ground, reminded you appropriately that we have now become famous for producing graduates in agriculture, some of whom, if you allow me a little latitude and hyperbole, cannot distinguish between a goat and a sheep. And that is why every person you ask in Africa is a farmer, but we are still importing chicken from Brazil. When I sit at the breakfast table in any African country, what am I served with? Nescafe from Nestle in Switzerland. There is not a single coffee bush in Switzerland. When I sit at the breakfast table, cocoa from Nestle, and yet Ghana is the largest producer of cocoa. What happened? We were disrupted. Pippin was right. When we want to build our roads, we have engineers, most of whom today, if you do not address them as engineers so-and-so, they rise up, ready to beat you up. But yet, when we are building our highway from Accra through to Winneba, through to Cape Coast, through to La Côte d'Ivoire, it is the Chinese that I see. Which calls into question, what type of engineering are we teaching? We are producing doctors, and they are good, some of them. But yet, when those of us who have the ability are sick, unless they do not know, they want to be airlifted to Dubai and to Germany. They have no faith in our medical system. When we are sick during COVID, all Africa is crying to America, oh, give us Moderna, give us Pfizer, to the Russians, give us Sputnik. We are crying. Yet we have universities with professors in medicine. You know, there is a missing link somewhere. Until the day we have the courage to find that missing link, then we are not preparing for the 21st century. Today, as I came here, courtesy of my hosts, I was driven in beautiful cars. Oh, none was made in Ghana. They are either made in Japan or in Germany. Africa does not produce cars. Ali Mazrui is right. We are in the business of consuming that which we do not produce and producing that which we do not consume. We must re-examine our education system. Even in matters as mundane as sports, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry. The United States of America offers our young men and women scholarships to study sports. Our universities don't. Football is a multi-billion-dollar industry. But yet, when one of the masters of ceremony was speaking in jest, it is not the anthem of Asante Kotoko that he remembered, but that of Liverpool, we shall not walk alone. So that as we are sitting here, even in the area of sports, which is a whole multi-billion-dollar industry, our young men and women are preoccupied with whether Arsenal beat Real Madrid or Barcelona beat Borussia Dortmund. They do not care whether Hafia Guinea Conakry beat Asante Kotoko. The Osagiefo was right when he said, we may actually solve the economic problem. We may even solve the political problem. But I dare say that the mental problem which was impacted and makes us feel inferior will take a little longer to solve. This was not only said by the Osagiefo himself in 1963. In 1933, Carter G. Woodson, that African-American educator writing in his book, Miseducation of the Negro, said that we have been so miseducated for so long. Our self-esteem has been undermined for so long. We have been made to use the back door for so long that even when we are told to use the front door, we look for the back door, and if we can't find it, we create our own back door. The level of our miseducation is amazing. We must change it in order to enter into the 21st century. You know, Brother Pippin, when you said that our passport, technological passports to the 21st century and visas to boot are expired, you are right. How can we play football on the games of rugby, on the rules of rugby? How? This is the question that we want to address today. We are talking about agriculture. And we are saying that we are now using technology to feed ourselves by manipulating the elements. The Chinese are seeding the rain so that it may rain. They have no problem with those of us who pray we must. But this misguided belief by Africans that when there is no rain, we pray and do nothing about it is completely misguided. The divine instruction was go ye and subdue the world. And subduing the world is by using our minds, by using the knowledge that we have. This is what the universities must ask. If you are a teacher, what kind of a teacher are you? Today, if I stood here and asked young Africans, and there is no shortage of them here, how many African authors do you know? And I asked, which is the last book of Chinua Achebe that you read? Or Kofi Awunor? Or Aikwe Iyama? Or Kamara Lai? Or Flora Nwapa? Or Dambisa Moyo? Or more recently, Chimama and Ngozi Adichie? Or Yagiansi? How many have? We have been made to believe that it is only Shakespeare and Charles Dickens that matter. The time is now for us to change our minds. And we can only change our minds if we decolonize our minds. Ngugi Wa Thiong'o, that famous Kenyan writer, says, until the day that we decolonize our minds, we are going nowhere. And Ngugi reminds us that we may have decolonized our countries, but there is something called decoloniality, totally liberating ourselves from the mental chains of the colonizers. You know, the Osagyefo, to whom Africans owe an apology, wrote in his great book, Neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism, and the most dangerous. We are in that stage. That stage when the colonizer still wants us to believe that our literature is inferior, that our science does not exist, that our mathematics does not exist, that we have no medicine to talk about, that we cannot mine beyond Galamsey, that we cannot extract our own oil, that we have no business being in robotics and cryptocurrency, that we must be consigned to the Museum of History alongside the spinning wheel, that we have no business being in the jet age. That is what we are being told. And my fear is that we appear to be believing it. We appear to be believing it because in our institutions of learning, when you look at our curriculum and you look at the curriculum of a number of countries in the Middle Ages, there is no difference. And I want to remind all of us that in the 1960s, when we were regaining our independence, and you read what was happening in different African countries, and I remind you to reread some of the thinkers of the time and the emphasis that they put on education. I was rereading for the umpteenth time the 32 speeches that were delivered by African leaders in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, between the 23rd and 25th days of May 1963, all of them, without exception, said one thing: if we are to give meaning to our independence, then education must be our focus. So said Ethiopia's Haile Selassie. If we want to change the continent of Africa, we must give meaning to education. So said Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere of Tanzania on that day. If we are going to change my little Senegal, we must give education priority. So said Leopold Sedar Senghor of Senegal. Even the complicit Félix Houphouët-Boigny in La Côte d'Ivoire believed so. But the ultimate was, of course, the one and only, the Osagyefo. He was as eloquent as he was passionate. And when he came home, where did he not visit? If he was not at Legon, opening the University of Ghana, he was in Kumasi, creating what is now the Kwame Nkrumah University. And if he was not at Kumasi, he was here creating an institute. He was everywhere. That is why when I heard my good friend talking about free basic education, he knew that ignorance is the enemy of progress. He knew that if there was a ghost that we had to exorcise, it was the ghost of ignorance. He knew that if there was a devil that we had to pray and fast against, it was ignorance. He knew that if there was anything we had to marshal our forces against in order to exorcise the ghost of tribalism in its primordial sense, it was ignorance. He knew. Yet, several years down the line, when you ask your typical academic, when they want to say that the University of Winneba, of education at Winneba is good, they say it is as good as Oxford. Why? Why can't it be just good? They must say that it is as good as Harvard, as MIT. Why must we always have this inadequacy to compare ourselves with others? We must change in order to enter the 21st century with confidence. Your leadership, who is a judge and belongs to our profession, which is one of the most imprisoned professions in Africa. When you see our judges dressing, they still dress like Father Christmas. Whoever told us that justice could only be administered when you dress like Father Christmas, I do not know. When we are citing, even deciding a matter on land law in Ghana, in Cape Coast, we still want to cite some decision that was made by some English judge in the 13th century, as if we did not have our own land law. The time has come that we must rethink and re-enter the 21st century with laws that are known to Ghana. Ask the Ga if they do not have laws that if we refine cannot lead us into the 21st century. Ask the Akan people if they do not have such laws. Ask the Fante people if they do not. Ask the Ewe if they do not. They do. We live in a world where we are so mentally captured that those of you in the middle class, your greatest claim to fame is that my daughter can no longer speak Chui and is meant to be a badge of honor. It is a badge of complete colonial conquest. And we cannot enter the 21st century with that mindset. Go to the countries in the Scandinavia, which we can dare compare ourselves with. Go to Denmark, they teach in Danish. Go to Norway, they teach in Norwegian. Go to Sweden, they teach in Swedish. Go to Finland, they teach in Finnish. Go to Korea, they teach in Korean. Go to China, they teach in Chinese. Go to Japan, they teach in Japanese. Then they meet the world. But you and me, here I am waxing eloquent in English.
not in Kiswahili. We must revamp our curriculum. And we must have the courage to do so as I speak to you now. They are teaching Yoruba and Twi at universities outside of this continent. Why? Because language is a multi-million dollar, multi-billion cedi industry. It is only us who do not know. Those of you who are religiously inclined, we are the only visitors in Jerusalem. So, brothers and sisters, we are here to remind ourselves that there is urgent business to be undertaken. We are here to remind ourselves that we had a good past. We are here to remind ourselves that others came and through slavery they disrupted that past. That they did not stop there, that they came again under colonization, and this time they disrupted us so very thoroughly and took away even the most precious of things, our confidence. That when they came here and imposed an education system, that education system had only one agenda. The agenda was to create men and women, if they were the English who colonized you, who could speak English and be their clerks. If you are colonized by the French, that you could speak French or Portuguese or Italian or Germany. When we regained our independence, we only made cosmetic changes. The time is now to go deep and remove the cosmetics and go to the fundamentals. And I'm suggesting to you that has been done. You know, those of you who are a little older will remember that 30 years ago, China was not famous for much. They were only famous for Chairman Mao, for the Long March. Today, even the toothpicks in your hotels here in Winneba are from China. Today, you go to the shops, even the inauthentic Kentes are from China. They have franchised, indeed patented Kente. You go home, your television is Chinese or Korean. You are being persuaded to use your phones. I suspect you are either using Samsung or Huawei. What did China do 30 years ago? They made a decision that we are going to change our education system. And they changed the education system. They engaged in agriculture. They engaged in technology. They engaged in medicine. They engaged in everything. And today, China is the second strongest economy in the world, with a GDP of no less than 19 trillion United States dollars. Compare that with little Ghana. Compare that with little Sierra Leone. Compare that with little Kenya, with little all these countries. What they did was to change their minds in order to change their future. And that is why when we are building roads, whether it's in Nairobi, Kenya, or in Accra, Ghana, or in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, or in Senegal, or in Ouagadougou in Burkina Faso, or Bamako in Mali, or Harare in Zimbabwe, or in Zambia, who do we find? Chinese. Because they changed their minds. The time is now for us to change our minds. The academics who are here must
agree with me that we have sinned and fallen short of the expectations of our countries, and that the time is now to say that we should be forgiven. And if our generation committed those mortal sins, you up there must not repeat those mistakes. You must not repeat those mistakes. You must use the examples and the experience so that you do not step on the landmines that we stepped on. That is why Chinua Achebe said, where are the young suckers that will grow when the old banana dies? These are old bananas. You are the young suckers. So rise up. Africa is not expecting you to engage in a perpetual state of lamentation. No, lamentation will not help you. And I want to remind you that when you are here in Ghana, don't compete with Liberia. You will beat Liberia. Don't compete with Benin. Don't compete with Togo. Don't compete with La Côte d'Ivoire. Don't compete with all these little African dwarfs. Compete with giants. And when Ghana wakes up, this Ghana, sometimes when I think about Ghana, I think about Kwame Nkrumah. And you think about his books, Dark Days in Ghana, Letters from Conakry. When the Osagyefo is so close yet so far, his ideas dead, his books banned until Ignatius Kutu Acheampong comes. It is only in the year 2013 that Nkosazana and Dlamini Zuma, the then chair of African Commission, writes a letter of apology to Kwame Nkrumah. I urge you to read it. He tells Kwame, you are right. Everybody was wrong when you said we must unite and change our education system in order to compete. That is Nkosazana and Dlamini Zuma. Today, the Osagyefo is here telling us, let us change. He said it in 1963 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. He said it in 1964 in Cairo, Egypt. He said it in 1965 in Accra, Ghana. And on 6th day of March 1997, on the occasion of the celebration of 40 years of independence of Ghana, Kambarage Nyerere himself also apologized to Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah. He said, you are right, we were wrong. Today I'm saying that we cannot remain imprisoned in history and lamentation. That is why it is still true for you Ghanaians. Nkrumah is dead, but Nkrumah never dies. And the reason why he never dies is that his ideas are evergreen. Who among you here is courageous enough to stand up and contradict me when I say what we are saying here was said by Kwame Nkrumah in 1955? Who among you? Who among you here is courageous enough to tell me that Nkrumah did not think about education of a different kind when he was instituting the university at Legon? Who amongst us? That he was right when he established the Kwame Nkrumah University in Kumasi, that he was right when he instituted the institute out of which grew the University of Education at Winneba. Who amongst you can contradict me? So if he was right, He did not have the advantage of the technology that you have. No. There was no WhatsApp, there was no Twitter or X, there was no Instagram, there was only telegraph. But he was able to marshal the entire black community throughout the world and give meaning to education. What can you and me not do if we mean to do it? So you young men who are present here, don't tell me Nkrumah was old. Nkrumah was just slightly older than you. If you look at his cabinet, some of them were in their 20s. It is not formal education that maketh a man or a woman. The great Indian sage Raja Gopalachari says, education is not merely attending institutions and acquiring certificates. He says, you may have gone to school, but has school gone through you? This is the question. So, ladies and gentlemen, here today, we are here to tell ourselves ad nauseum that the mother continent can change, and she will change. She will change, and when I look at the future and I hold all factors constant, I see an Africa whose young men and women are educated and their education is about innovation and invention. I see such an Africa. I see an Africa whose sons and daughters will be leaders in cryptocurrency. I see that Africa. I see an Africa where all the cars running from Addis Ababa in Ethiopia to Banjul in the Gambia will either be made in Togo, Burkina Faso, or Uganda. I see that Africa. See an Africa where the Ghanaian doctors who are running hospitals in the United States and in the United Kingdom will have the courage to come back home because there is something called a hospital where they can do their trade. I see such an Africa. I see an Africa where we will have our own satellites that are launched next to Elmina Castle, and they'll go out there in the orbit, and we shall not be depending on Vodafone. I see such an Africa. I see an Africa where we will be able to produce enough rice, enough cocoa, and enough gold, and we will process it here, and that you will be selling it to Nairobi, Kenya, Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and it will not be necessary to look to the outside world. I see such an Africa. See an Africa where, apart from Kiswahili, one of the languages that will be spoken will be Twi or Ebe or Ga. I see such an Africa. That Africa is possible. It is possible, Honorable Minister for Education, when at your next meeting you think outside of the box, or preferably without reference to the box. I see an Africa where we will give practical meaning to Africa Agenda 2063, not merely as a point of reference, but as a practical reality. I see an Africa where there is Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and the majority of students here at Winneba will be drawn from Togo, from Benin, from Gabon. I see an Africa where our kith and kin in Martinique, in Guadeloupe, and Barbados, Antigua, and Barbuda will be coming here. I see that happen. That is why, when I have such foresight, wisdom not only requires but dictates that I stop. Because going beyond that would be flogging a dead horse. I see an Africa that gives meaning to those words of the Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, written in his book, Africa Must Unite, that Africa needs a new citizen. Are you those citizens that the Osagyefo was talking about? Are you? Do you have value? Do you have passion? Do you have dedication? Do you have love? Do you have imagination? Do you have the spirit of innovation? Do you have the spirit of invention? If that is true, then I have no fear for Africa. So go out there and amaze Africa. God bless you.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, let's do it again for Professor Lumumba. So I'm looking at my phone right now, and it's 1:06 p.m. on the 11th of April, 2025. And I think, VC, we may have to note this day and mark it annually in UEW as UEW's Lumumba Day.
Yes.
Let's give it up for our speaker. So are we innovative enough to change the narrative of Africa? Are we charged to take ownership of the narration? Are we ready to move from Liverpool to Kotoko? And to Hasofoke Mofakwa?
Yes.
Definitely. From now, I will say Liverpool again. That was a great one, ladies and gentlemen. And what caught my eye and caught my attention, Lisa, was about the language bits that our speaker spoke about. And as a lecturer, we are, you know, the lecturers here, when you are teaching and then you know that the students understand what you are teaching, but you ask the questions and they are quiet. It's not that they don't understand, you know, but the moment they attempt to speak, you know, the past participle and the present continuous will mix. And then when they open their mouth, so they decide to keep quiet. So when you finish from, you close from there, you can say, minimum. Now, no, the past participle and the present continuous is fine in the head, but the moment you open your mouth, because it's not your language, then it will miss. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Still, the room is packed, and that is so great. Lisa, I think we have some people we need to introduce.
Yes, we still have some acknowledgements to do. And over here, I have Professor Samuel Al-Hassan Issa. He is the Dean of Ghanaian Language Education. Please give it up. We also have the Deputy Registrar of CODEL present. We have Dr. Gifty Apieje, the HOD of the Department of Journalism and Media Studies here. We have the Vice Dean of the Faculty of Applied Behavioral Sciences in Education, Professor Pat Amos. And we also have Professor Theresa Ainchi, who is the Director of the Counseling Center here in UEW.
Also, we also have the better half of the wife of the Vice Chancellor here with us. Let's give it up for her. And also a representative from the Accra Metropolitan University, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Veronica Mensah is here with us. Let's give it up for her as well. And also here in the University of Education, Winneba, we have our deputy registrars here. The list is long. Please do forgive me. You are here. Let's give it up for them. And let me introduce this person, very important. He's the chairperson of NAGRAT, Mr. Godfred Abaklo. Let's give it up for him. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, at this point, we'll have a remark from another great professor who is also a Pan-Africanist. A brief one, of course, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, and Bismarck, before we go there, you know, we didn't do this alone. We had people sponsoring us. We had media partners, and we had people contributing in monetary values, and kind. So we need to actually acknowledge them.
Yes.
So over here we have Access Bank Ghana. They say they have more than banking. Elcat Enterprise Limited, they deal with fire safety equipment. So they say safety, power, and more. We have Eco Capital Investment Management. We empower you to stand. Credit Union, a happy family. We also have the HIV units here in UEW. They say stay safe. And we have Gloriaca Hotels here in Winneba, and they are saying that home away from home. Now, with all these names that I've mentioned, they actually have stands outside. So let's try as much as possible to go to the various stands that they have outside after the program so that we can patronize their products and services. We also have Galang UEW sponsoring us, Tewu UEW, Goa UEW, Alumni UEW, UTAC UEW, Grasak UEW, SRC UEW, and Goel Winneba, all being our proud sponsors.
Okay, let me also say that we have our very own Windy Bay here with us. They are streaming on the university website on their own Facebook page. We also have GBC here with us. Joy FM is here with us. And let me remind you, we are still on JoyNews. So those of us watching from home, this is University of Education, Winneba. We also have CTFM, and of course from Winneba, Nice 90.7 FM is also here. Now, I've been prompted to do something, and with your permission, UEW Wings Band, please, can you give us 5 minutes of interlude before our next remark? Let's give it up for them. Let's give it up for them. Let's give it up for them. Okay, thank you so much, UEW Departmental Wings Band. Ladies and gentlemen, now I have the singular honor to introduce Professor Ajman Bedu Akosa to give us a brief summary. Let's give it up for him, brief remarks.
The Chancellor of the University of Education, Winneba, Nei Gati, Vice Chancellor, Principal Officers of the University, distinguished guest speaker, representative of the Minister for Education, my dear friend, Dr. Clement Apak, Deputy Minister for Education, staff of the university, students, ladies and gentlemen. You all agree with me that we've had a very academic lecture by Dr. Samuel Granting Pipim, clearly indicating the failures of our educational system and highlighting some of the new developments that are coming up. And we had a passionate exposure by P.L.O. Lumumba. Thank you very much. For me, as an avowed Nkrumahist, I stand tall today. And this is a gentleman from Kenya, Stoling. That is why they said a prophet is not honored in his own country. Ghana is 68 years. And yet, I don't believe any of the universities have a course on Kwame Nkrumah. Go to Stanford University, they run programs on Kwame Nkrumah. 16 of Kwame Nkrumah's books are not mandatory reading in any university in this country. And we believe we're going to go forward. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to go back and begin to tease what the problem is and what the likely outcome of this public lecture is going to be. Research abounds that children born should be educated at home with their mother tongue and in school with their mother tongue. The research even says that up to probably the age of 8, and therefore in Ghana's school system, class 1 at 6, 7, 8. Class 3, you start introducing English as a second language. What that does for you is that every word that the child knows in the mother language immediately gets translated into English. If I ask all of you here, what is your vocabulary? All right? What numbers can you give me? This morning in the conference room, I said that in 2002 or 2001, when the Kufuor government came in, the first Minister for Education was Professor Christopher Ameyaw-Kumfi. I met him, and he comes from a tradition that believes that English should be the medium of training right from, age 1. So I said my primary school teacher's vocabulary was 40. And 40 included 2-letter words and 3-letter words. How much of that was he going to hand over to me? Let me be charitable, 27 is to it, but that does not make English language. The other thing I want to say is that if I ask how many of you lived with your grandparents, there'll be a lot of silence in this room. Unfortunately, in our culture, if you're old and poor, you're a witch or a wizard. And families today shun the company of grandparents. But that is where the knowledge is. And I would say that good old the name is just gone, who said that you challenge indigenous knowledge at your peril. Indigenous knowledge is knowledge. This is Dr. Okuampofo. Indigenous knowledge is knowledge that has stood the test of time. If you learn from your grandparents, the stories you're told is about heroes and heroines in your culture. That is how you build confidence. You don't build confidence by learning somebody's heroes and heroines. They don't look anything like you. But here we are. Many people never met their grandparents, never shunned their grandparents, never learned the heroes and heroines of their cultures. Many of us have very interesting stories to tell. And yet, in this country, reading is virtually nil. There are university students who are graduating who have never read a book from page 1 to the end, particularly if it is not in their subject area. They all read handouts and notes, and that certainly doesn't make a university graduate. At least in every semester, there should be compulsory reading material. Even in medicine, you must read the history of medicine. You must read pretty much everything. We have little knowledge, we have little language, and therefore a lot of us can't speak. Not surprising, the MC said, you teach and you ask a question and everybody is quiet. If we started a program, and I'm saying that, look, P.L.O. felt that the young people here have got a changed mindset and can change this country. I totally disagree. They have come along the same route that I came through. I'm 71. I can't change my sports today. Most of you can't change your sports either. But let's start from early childhood education. And that for me has now become my preoccupation. The brain, by age 2, is mature. What you do is how to wire the brain. And you wire the brain through your senses, through what you see. The child is on the mother's back. They go to the farm. The only colors they see on most of our farms is brown and green. Nothing else. They don't see any other colors. Turquoise. No, nothing excites them. What do they smell? What do they hear? What kind of music do they hear? They're not even playing a match they did to them. Children, the senses virtually are starved of information. And that is the route through the wiring system. So I say that most Ghanaians are single-phase wired. In a house, you can have one-phase wiring or three-phase wiring. Three-phase wiring, if one phase goes off, the others are there. Most Ghanaians are one-phased wired. And therefore, the ability to lateralize and really comprehend what goes on around them is really limited. So we must begin early childhood education. I don't believe that if you taught a child Proverbs at age 2 or age 3, the child will not understand, particularly in the language that is spoken at home. But if you start teaching A is for apple and B is for banana, then you're doing what is called linear teaching. Everybody is a child prodigy, but that have not been exposed. So I want us in this empowering minds to say that this is the university from which the change must start. I want to hear University of Education, Winneba, say that up to the age of 8, backed by research, education must be by mother tongue. And by 8, English as a second language should be introduced in class 3, primary 3. That is when English should be. So that immediately that child transfers every word he or she now knows in his native language into English. And within 1 year, the vocabulary of 9-year-old Ghanaians would amaze all of you. Would amaze all of you. Then the next is reading. If people cannot read about people who have been successful in their culture, in their country, and even beyond, they don't build the confidence. And reading is virtually almost taking, imbibing somebody else, knowledge. So if you don't read, you know nothing. In this country, we do not read. It's almost as if you read, you are wasting your time. Because you only need your teacher's notes to pass the exam. But if we made compulsory reading every semester, the amount of knowledge that will be garnered will be very impressive. And therefore, if we're going to shape futures for the 21st century, then I dare all of us that all of us past the age, having entered primary school, we have lost the boat. We have. We are not confident. We are not dignified in ourselves. And that is why corruption is probably the number one thing that happens in this country. Because everybody just wants money. Money is the only currency that an uncultured, an unvalued human being wants. If you value, if you have dignity, if you have confidence, money is not your currency. So we've lost it. But if we've got to regain it, then it starts from the KG and the primary school. How can we do this? Currently, there is a process going on in this country looking at education at all stages. How is UEW positioned to influence what is happening? This is where the whole challenge begins.
Relentless, unfiltered, unstoppable. Oliver Mause Baka-Vamawo, a voice that refuses to be silenced.
Getting into this space, I feel like my soul is restful. And I can't put a price on that.
A lawyer by profession, an activist by conviction.
Yes, about it. Nobody. Nobody's researching. We have several faculties of pharmacy. How many of them are researching into our herbal pharmacopoeia? No. You're training pharmacists to come and count paracetamol. That is not how many years, 4 years, or now 6 years of university education. If they had done research on Philanthus neruli, for example, it is a regular herb in everybody's backyard. It is called abomeguechi. Believe you me, it's a powerful wellness drug. It is described in the literature as stone breaker. So if you use that for green tea, you don't develop kidney stones, you don't develop gallbladder stones. But it's a herb. Nobody gives them about it. So there is a lot in our backyard that we don't know. But if you don't know what is in your backyard, how dare you go out of your backyard to go and look for what? Knowledge where? You don't even interact with your grandmother. You don't know what your grandmother knows. And in our typical folklore, we represent the past, today, and the future. That is the African trilogy. We all come from our ancestors, and therefore we pour libation to our ancestors. We don't know what our ancestors knew. We don't. So what do we know today? What have we added to the knowledge passed on by our ancestors? And if you don't know what your ancestors knew, what have you added? So what is there for the future population? And that is the reason why today Galamsey is killing us. Because the people of today want all the gold out of Ghana. But people lived in Ghana many years before this current generation. Why did they leave the gold there? Or you think they didn't know there was gold there? They knew. But there was a valued system that we have lost all those values. This morning, the VC said P.L.O. Lumumba had asked the question whether God was a Christian. And I just want to say something. In this country, it was known that on certain days, fishermen don't go to the sea, and on certain days, farmers don't go to the land. It was just one way of allowing regeneration. But when Christians came, they argued that those who had been converted as Christians felt that that day, that is, to allow the land or the sea to regenerate, was paganism. And therefore they will go. And in every part of the country, the decision by the governor was that that should not be a practice. So you go to the land how many days a week? Maybe apart from the Sabbath, that they might not go, but the Sabbath, traditionalists will go. So there was virtually no day for the land. We have an opportunity. The opportunity is that let us break from our past. It is not a feeble-lettered, little language graduate who is going to change the world. It is a confident, dignified human being with values who know what the ancestors knew, who is prepared to add on and guarantee the future. That is the confident African that we want to step out to go and compete. But we've lost it. All of us, some of us went out and trained. Of course, in the classroom, if it is knowledge there, were, if not better. But you come back, the system just stifles you. The system has a way of choking you. You cannot bring change. We've been here, all right? We know how the system works, all right? And, you know the terminologies you two know. You think you have come out. Hey, no. This is Ghana. We have got to begin a sea change. And to the Deputy Minister, please take the outcome of this public lecture. I hope that the synopsis will be done as soon as practicable, so that before the committee finishes its work, this can be a contribution from the UEW's Public Lecture Series. That can help reform education. Just last week, Emeritus Professor Kwesi Yanka gave a lecture to memorialize Ekweadonko and his whole philosophy. And I did a full graphic article on Ekweadonko. And I did that to spite educated women in this country. That with all your education, nobody's prepared to stand tall and say that I will fight to become the president of this country. Nobody. You are waiting to be made running mates. No. How many women, Ekweadonko, an illiterate woman who never had the opportunity to go to school? Was that her fault? Was that her fault? No. And yet, she was derided by women. just because they didn't have the guts, despite all your education and all your PhDs and all your whatever. And in saying that, Emeritus Kwesi Yankah said, currently everywhere you go, there is simultaneous translation. So why do we empower only people who can speak English into our parliament? And when a member of parliament cannot express him or herself, what happens? Derided. But if there was simultaneous translation, the person will be speaking ever and is being translated into English or Twi or whatever. Any international conference, you must have simultaneous translators. We have so many, colleges of languages, and all of them can be trained as translators to work in parliament, to work in most of our conferences. So this conference, for example, there could be simultaneous translation into Twi, into Ewe, into Ga, for those who are not erudite in the English language. We do damage to ourselves, and somehow we expect that we will progress. Progress is an inclusivity. All right? Robert Dussay said, you people who've gone to school, you think wisdom is in the classroom. No. Wisdom is most certainly not in the classroom. It isn't. That is why we say there's a fie jansan and there's school jansan. In other words, there is sense in the home and there's sense in classroom. And don't think that because somebody hasn't gone to school, that person ain't get no sense. The person is loaded with wisdom. Are we prepared to learn from them? No, because we're better than them. And that is the reason why we are floundering. And unfortunately, we are retrogressing because we've lost our value system. We are not confident. We are not dignified. We cannot express ourselves very, very well. And if you cannot, everything else stays in your head. We live in a country where dreams do not materialize. You can be an entrepreneur in this country, you will be suffocated. That is the system. They tell us, all of you should be creating jobs. Create jobs where? In this country? My God, where is the finance? Where is anything? Where is anything? Nobody is prepared to help anybody. Everybody is prepared to help themselves. And I know Honorable is here, but let me say something. Last Friday, Parliament gave to every parliamentarian 200,000 as Get Fund project and gave them an additional 150,000 to monitor projects. There is nowhere in this world that you are giving 75% of what you are giving to monitor projects. No, nowhere. Parliamentarians all kept quiet. They got the money. They got their ex gratia. They got their car loan. Boom, that's it. These are the people's representatives. And meanwhile, the people are choking to death. The people are choking to death. So please, our representatives, look back. Think about us. Think about us. And let's all together move this country forward. The last thing I want to say is that I believe sincerely, and I'll say it here today, that multi-party democracy has done nothing for this country. Since 1992, the only beneficiaries of the system is the political class. The professional class, the working class, the underclass have all been totally marginalized. It's as if you live in this country, your sense is not respected. But that does not develop a country. We must be prepared to harvest the intellectual might of this country to progress this country. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe and I share in P.L.O. Lumumba's statement that the change starts now. The change, let's say the change starts with the new educational system and the relevance of our local language in our educational system. And let me say that let's disabuse our minds that our grandparents are witches and wizards. They gave birth to you, they nurtured you, and today, because you've gone to school, you turn around and say they are witches. What you have lost is what your ancestors knew and your ability to add onto it. That has been one of the tragedies of our modern Ghana. We can correct it, and let's correct it now. I wish you all the best. Thank you.